This training video is on returns. We're going to cover 3 different types of return. A return from a customer where the piece is going back into your inventory, a return from a customer where the piece is being returned to your vendor, and a return for a piece that's in your inventory that is not owned by your customer. So the first thing we're going to do is do the return from a customer where the piece is going back into your inventory. The first thing you do is you find the original sales order for that piece and print it out so you have all the information in front of you. And then you would create a new order for that customer. This new order is going to contain a return line that's going to tell your delivery people in your warehouse that they need to pick up a piece, and then it's going to contain another line for the replacement piece. So you're going to create a new order for your customer. And the first line you're going to put on there is the line for your return SKU. And in the description, you're going to put the information about the piece that's being returned. You're going to put in the original order number, the sale date, the QLN that was sold, and as you know, the QLN stands for Quick Lookup Number, which is a number that the system assigns to the piece, the brand, and the model. You're going to sell this line as a negative for the amount that the original piece was sold for. And then as you can see, when you look at this, you only see a short amount of it, but if you click in there, it gives you all the information you need, and when this order is printed and the delivery order is printed, this will all print out. The second line will be the replacement piece. In this instance, I'm going to assume we're selling the same piece for the same price. If there was an extended warranty sold on that piece, you would also want to sell an extended warranty on the new piece. And it does default to the same price. So now you've got your negative line and your positive line. And if you look at totals, the amount due is 0. Perhaps you would sold a different piece and it would be for a different amount, so you might have an amount due, in which case you would collect the payment for the difference in the amount. Or it could be that there's a refund due the customer because the new piece might be less than the old piece, in which case you would give the customer a refund. In this case, there's 0 balance. Then you would schedule the piece for delivery. Check off both lines, the return line and the replacement piece. And now this piece is scheduled for delivery. So now the piece gets delivered. The paperwork comes back in, and you're ready to invoice the piece. So you would invoice this. In this case, I have not filled this order from inventory, so I'm just going to assume it's been invoiced. I'm going to go back to the sales order. So once you've invoiced the piece, you want to zero out this negative line because, again, this is only to tell the warehouse to pick up this piece. So we're just going to change that to 0. And now when we go to payments, you'll see that there is a balance due on the order. And the way we take care of that balance due is we need to actually return this piece because the customer now would own both the original piece and the replacement piece. So let's go to the customer. And this is the second part of the return process. The first part is, again, creating that negative line on the sales order to tell the warehouse to pick up the piece. The second part is actually going to the customer, finding the piece in their products, and it happens to be this GE piece right here, clicking on return, and it just verifies you do want to return the item. And now here's our return. So you'll notice the first thing you see is that the status is in red, and it's for S. S means sold. So at this point, this piece is still owned by your customer. So you want to update the status. Now, as I said, this return process is to put the piece back into inventory. So we're going to update that. And you have two choices to put it back in inventory. You can pick a status of O, which is open floor stock, or I, in stock boxed. So let's assume this piece is still in the box. We're going to just change it to I, and the reason for the status change is because it was returned. You always want to put a reason why the piece was returned, and we'll just say it was the wrong color, and we can put should have been purple. So now this status has been changed. It's an I. If you were to go to the customer, and let me show you that real quick. We'll go to the customer and go to the piece, and now it's grayed out, and it's been returned. So now it's officially not owned by your customer. Let's go back to the return. The next thing you want to do is take care of any money. So there's money due for you from your vendor, but since you put this back in your inventory, you're not going to get any money from your vendor, so you've got to take care of that. And this side comes from the landed cost in your inventory. This is the amount that was originally paid for the piece. So it's due to your customer. If you go to payments, you'll see that a merchandise credit was created for that amount. So the first thing you want to do is take care of this vendor side because you're never going to get this money from your vendor. So you want to put a payment on there for the amount of that balance. This figure is included in your brand AR, and it's really not due, so you want to take care of that. So we have a payment type called Inventory Return Adjustment, and that's what gets put on there. And this payment does not post anywhere, so it's not going to affect your accounting. And now you can go back to Details and click Return Closed, and this return is no longer open. But we still have the matter of that balance due on your sales order. So let's go there now, and because we created the return, there's a merchandise credit available. In this particular case, has some other balances in there, so that typically this would be for $528, and we would put that merchandise credit on there, and this would be invoiced, and we'd attach it to the invoice. So that is the flow. Again, 3 parts: sales order with the negative line, then you go to the customer, create the return, update the status for this, in this case, back into your inventory, zero out the money from the vendor, take the merchandise credit and pay off your sales order, and the process is complete. The second scenario would be if the piece was being returned and it was damaged and you were going to return it to your vendor and get credit for it. The first part of the transaction, putting the return line and replacement piece, is the same process as we just covered. So now the sales order is there, it's been delivered, invoiced, the negative line's been zeroed out. So we're at the point where we go to the customer, and in this case we're going to have this piece here and we're going to say it was damaged. So we're going to return it. And now again, second step is to update the status. In this case, we're going to return it to our vendor. So the status of that is C, returned for credit. Status change is still returned. And now the reason is damaged. And you would put in here what was wrong with it. Large dent in the side. You would go to your money. Again, you've got money due from your billing customer and money due from your vendor. So you go to payments. This is the merchandise credit you would use to pay off the new order that you put with the negative line and the replacement piece. Then when your credit comes in from your vendor, you want to apply it to this side because, again, this is in your brand AR, due to you from your vendor. So the credit comes in a month later, and there's a couple different scenarios here. Sometimes you get the full amount, in which case you would put $1,699 here, and that typically is a credit, and you would reference the credit number, and you'd be done, and then you'd go and update your status right here to Q, because your credit was received, and actually you would copy in your credit number. And now the status of the piece is Q, return for credit. It's no longer included in the value of your inventory because you don't own it anymore. You receive the money for it, and you would close the return. Another scenario is that you would only get a portion of that for some reason. The restocking charge or whatever reason, sometimes the credits you get are not for the total amount due. But you can't close this return until, and you're never going to get that money. I mean, it's just you're writing it off. So you would, let's say you got $950, and that would be the amount of your credit. There's still $56.99 due, so you put another payment for $56.99, and that would be what we call vendor return short and over, and that would make that zero. And then again, you would update your status to Q, and now you can close your return. So the process again, make that negative line on new sales order, replacement piece, bring the piece back in, zero out the negative line, go to customer, create the return, use the merchandise credit to pay off your replacement sales order, wait for the credit to come in, and when the credit comes in, apply it, update the status to Q, and you're done with the process. Now the third scenario is that you've got some pieces in your inventory and you want to return them to your vendor. Say it's end of the year and, oops, one second. What we could do on this one. End of the year and you've got some air conditioners and you're finished using them. No one's going to buy them anymore. You want to return them. So you go to your inventory pieces. You can't return these from a customer, of course, because they're not owned by a customer. So you would go to your inventory pieces themselves, and you click on this return this item from stock to vendor. And same scenario, a return gets created. You want to update your status. You'll notice there's no customer information on here because it was never owned by a customer. You want to update your status, and that would be return for credit. And again, the status is returned. Status change reason is returned. And you want to put a reason here. You can put wrong model color. It doesn't really matter. You want to put in here end of year, end of season return. And then when your credit comes in, same scenario as before. You've got nothing due on the customer side because there is no customer. You would get your credit in a month later, and you would put your credit in here, and we can make this one be the full amount. That's a credit. And you would copy this information, go to your details, update your status again to Q, copy in your credit number, and you're done, and the return is closed. And again, all of these return to vendors are, you can see all your open returns right here. And if you do your accounting reporting and you do your brand AR, you will see a report that shows all the money due to you from each of your vendors. You get your item costs. If you have push-pulls, you can add those to the returns. There's your total, and there's your payments and your balances. And that is the end of our returns training for today. Thank you very much.